Welcome to my short tutorial on using Route Builder for Mod Organizer 2. This tutorial assumes you already have some knowledge of how to use Mod Organizer, and if not, there are already plenty of great resources elsewhere on the topic, so I won't go into it here. On my desktop, I have a fresh portable install of Mod Organizer 2, which is pointing at a Steam install for Skyrim Special Edition. However, Route Builder works out of the box with all of the modern Elder Scrolls and Fallout games, amongst many others, and the process for using it is exactly the same for all of them. I have also got a freshly downloaded copy of Route Builder from Nexus Mods, as well as a copy of Skyrim Script Extender, which we'll be installing as an example. But before installing Route Builder, it's important to note that you should have your game folder in a completely vanilla state. Whatever files are in the game folder when Route Builder first runs will be considered the vanilla game, and if you have any mods installed there, it'll cause unexpected side effects later on. So, to install Route Builder, we're going to open up our Mod Organizer folder. We're going to go find the plugins folder and open that. Then we're going to open up our Route Builder zip, and we're going to drag and drop this top level Route Builder folder directly into plugins. Now, you don't want any of the stuff inside that, you just want the top level folder. Once we've done that, we can run modorganizer.exe, and when it opens, we can check that Route Builder is installed by looking at the Tools menu with the little jigsaw piece icons. And at the bottom, you should have Route Builder with a few options here. Now that Route Builder is installed, we can look at installing Skyrim Script Extender. So we're going to want to go to the Downloads folder for our Mod Organizer install. If you don't know where that is, or if you have an instance set up for Mod Organizer, you can just open up the settings, go to Paths, and you will see in Downloads here, you'll see the location of your Downloads folder. In this case, we're going to drag and drop it into there. And then when we have a look in Mod Organizer, we go to the Downloads tab. We've now got our downloaded copy of Skyrim Script Extender. So to install it, we're just going to double click, and it's going to warn us that this is incorrectly packaged, which it is. And we've got a data folder, which is the same kind of thing that Mod Organizer already manages. We've got a src folder with the source code. We don't need that. We've got these two text files that we also don't need, but we have got this DLL and exe file that we want to go in the base Skyrim folder. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create a folder, create a directory under data, and we're going to call it root. And then we're going to drag and drop these two files into that root folder. And once we've done that, we can right click data and do set as data directory. And there we go, we're ready. So we've got the scripts folder managed by Mod Organizer like normal, and the root folder that we've just made just for our special root files. Now you may be tempted to instead have a directory like this with data underneath root with the scripts in there. If you do that, Route Builder will ignore this mod entirely. It will not permit you to have a data folder inside the root folder because it'll cause all sorts of weird problems. So instead, you've got to have root with just the stuff going in the base game folder, and then anything else that would go in a data folder goes next to it like this. So now we can click OK, and Skyrim Script Extender is installed. But now we also need to add it to the list up here so that we can run it. So I've enabled it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up here. I'm going to go to the File tree. I'm going to open the Modern Explorer, and I'm going to grab the path here, which is the path to where the mod is installed in Mod Organizer. If it's a portable install, this will be really easy to find because you just go Mod Organizer 2, mods, and there it is. But if you've got an instance install, then it might be a bit more complicated to find. So we're just going to copy that path there, close that, and close this. Then we're going to go edit our list over here. We're going to add from file at the top with a little plus icon. We're going to paste in the path that we just copied. And we're now at the mod folder. We're going to go into the root folder, and there's our skse loader exe file. So we just add that, and there we go. It's listed. It's being run from the mods folder for Mod Organizer. I'm going to click OK. And now if I wanted to, I could just run that, and Route Builder would then manually install these root files for me, and then it would run the file from the game folder as intended. So we can check that this would work by using Explore Virtual Folder. We can run it, and it'll open this up. We can then go up one level, and we'll see in here we've got our regular Skyrim stuff, and we've got the SKSE loader and the DLL for going with it. So that means that's going to work. Now, that's all you really need to know to use Root Builder. From here, you can just continue to install mods. Any kind of mods that need to go in the game folder, you install as root mods, you add them like that, and you're good to go. Now, in the case of when files are created, or when vanilla files change, this is what will happen. So we're in the root folder here, and we're going to create a new file. In this case, we're just going to leave the generic new text document.txt thing. So that's in the root folder. It's not part of the vanilla game, and it's not part of our SKSE. So when I close this, and Root Builder clears up, if I double click on overwrite, I'll notice there's a root folder in there with our text document, just like how it would work with Mod Organizer normally. So now I could create a mod from that and just do example text. And there we go. There's our text document that we just created. And that's really everything you need to know to use Root Builder. However, if you would like, there are some optional tools. If we open up the tools menu and go in here, we've got 4 options. Build, clear, and sync are quick shortcuts to using tools manually, and Root Builder at the top is the main menu. Here we've got all of our settings. At the top we've got mode. Copy mode is the default, and it does what it sounds like. It will copy all of the files from these root folders into the game folder when something is run through Mod Organizer, and when the application closes, they will all be copied back to their mod folders. Anything that's new will get put in overwrite, and so on. You then have an optional USVFS mode, which will ask Mod Organizer to manage the root files with its virtual file system. However, this does not work very well with DLL files or exe files. Sometimes it doesn't work with INI files either. It can be quite incompatible. There is also a USVFS plus links mode, which tries to improve the compatibility by using symbolic links. You can specify which kinds of files you want to make these links for in the extensions down here. By default, DLL and exe are included. This will make it more compatible than by default. However, it will never be as compatible as copy mode, which is exactly the same as manually installing. Then we've got a series of settings down here. The top 2, backup and cache, should generally either be both enabled or both disabled. And the way these work is if backup and cache are enabled, when you first run Root Builder, a backup of all of the root files from the vanilla game will be taken. They will be hashed, and those file hashes will be stored in a cache file. Then, when the game clears, and we're going to clean up all the files, it will compare the file hashes of the files in the game folder with the vanilla hashes that we've got in our cache. And if anything has changed, we will restore our backup files from the vanilla game. If you do not have these settings enabled, if you don't have backup enabled, then we won't be taking the full backup, and instead we will only backup files that we're about to overwrite with a build. So for example, if I had a Skyrim se.exe in Mod Organizer and then I ran a build, it would detect that I was about to overwrite the vanilla one. It would take a backup of the vanilla one and then restore just that file afterwards. However, if I ran something that overwrote one of those files later on, they wouldn't be restored. If I didn't have cache enabled, then every single time we create a build and we run Root Builder, it will hash all of the files in the base game folder. So having it enabled for performance reasons is generally advised. Auto build is the setting that means that when you run something here, it will build automatically for you, and it will clear again when the application closes. If you disable this, then you must either use the build, sync, and clear buttons here, or you must use the ones in the tools menu here. Then we've got redirect, which is what allows us to add our skse.exe file from the mod folder itself, which will then be redirected to the game folder. If this is not what you want to do, if you want to have it running from the game folder, you can disable redirect, you can run a build manually, and then you can add the file from the game folder here. And then you can run a clear, and it will remove the file, but it'll keep it added in this list. Generally, there's no reason to disable auto build or redirect. There is also an installer setting which is disabled by default. If enabled, then Root Builder will try to automatically detect when you're installing a mod that needs root files. So now that I've enabled it, if I double click on SKSE here, you can see that instead of prompting me to sort my files out, it's just said it's a Root Builder install, it's figured it out, and if I click OK, I could merge or I could replace, it didn't really matter, and it will detect it and rearrange files. This is disabled by default as it can falsely detect some non-root mods as root mods and cause problems, and it will not detect every root mod correctly, so you will still sometimes have to manually do things. You are welcome to experiment with it, but it is not recommended if you're doing a large mod list of installs in one go. Down at the bottom here, we've then got the exclusions setting, which contains saves and Morrowind.ini to start with. Anything that's included in here will be ignored by Root Builder completely. That means it will not be taken in a backup, it won't be hashed and cached, and it also means that if a mod has that in the root folder, then it will be ignored. The entire mod will be ignored, not just the file. So for example, if I create a new folder in here called saves, which I'm just going to do, and then I explore the virtual folder, and we go up a level, you'll notice that it did not install SKSE. That's because it detected that an ignored file was in this mod, and it just ignored the mod. I then delete the saves folder, and then I explore the virtual folder again, and we go up a level, it has installed again correctly. Now at the very bottom here, we've got create backup, create cache, delete backup, and delete cache. These buttons allow you to manually clear up the backup and the cache and create new ones. Generally, there should be no reason to need to use them unless something has already gone wrong. For example, if you accidentally installed Root Builder while you had mods installed, then you could use these buttons. You could delete the backup, delete the cache, then you can go restore your game folder to a vanilla state, and then you can create a new backup and cache. Now, the manual tools allow you to run Root Builder's functions outside of the auto build when you're running applications. So a build will copy the files from the root mods folders to the game. If you've got USVFS mode on, it won't do anything. Same with USVFS plus links, that only works with auto build. Sync will be, so if you've got your files, you've already done a build, you've got files in your game folder, and say you've changed one of them and you want to sync back to Mod Organizer. So you've got an ENB with an ini file, and you change some of the ENB settings and you want to keep the build in place. You just want to quickly update the file in Mod Organizer. You can click sync to do that. Or when you clear, it will also run a sync. And when you clear, it will remove all the files that it's copied over, and it will restore the vanilla game folder as best it can, putting all the new stuff or changed vanilla files in overwrite. And that's about it. Really, that's Root Builder. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you enjoy using Root Builder and enjoy modding your games. Thanks.